Hey guys, welcome back to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So today we're back with our third day in a row of Varus updated complete guide for patch 4.2 onwards, and today we have the on-hit slash crit variant of Varus. And personally, this is my favorite way to play Varus, mainly because it's, I guess you could say, similar to the way you play other ADCs, mostly relying on your basic attacks instead of relying on your skills. But with all that said, I'm gonna of course remind you guys to check out Varus basic guide I released 3 days ago for his skills, tips and tricks, combos, and leveling order. I'll leave that up in the cards above. So anyways, let's jump straight into talking about Varus's items. First up, we of course have the Immortal Shield Bow. And Immortal Shield Bow of course gives you the crit, the little bit of AD at the start. You also get the attack speed as well as the physical vamp, but mainly you get the lifeline passive, which of course triggers a shield that scales off of crit, and when that shield is triggered you gain additional physical vamp, of course for the survivability. Then we go for the tried and tested double item combo, going for Phantom Dancer second to give you that again, crit, a little bit of AD, gives you that 30% attack speed, and when you stack it up to 4 times, give you an additional 30% attack speed. Of course, also giving you movement speed from the Spectral Waltz passive. Now for the boots, personally, I dislike Boots of Furor and Lucidity boots on hit Varus because I feel like those are the two like not so useful boots. I like to go for either defensive boots or Gluttonous Greaves. Of course, with the Gluttonous Greaves, if you're attacking really fast, you're gonna lifesteal a lot. And with the defensive boots, of course, it is useful if you're playing into very high AD or AP on the enemy team, or you need tenacity, that sort of deal. Afterwards, we like to go for the Blade of the Rune King. Of course, very strong on hit, gives you attack speed, gives you a little bit of AD, and of course gives you the percent current health damage on hit, as well as giving you again more physical vamp, and also giving you the Drain passive, which makes it easier to run people down or kite away from them. And because you have so much lifesteal, you have lifesteal from like the Bork, you have lifesteal from Bloodthirster coming up next, as well as Immortal Shield Bow. I think generally Gluttonous Greaves is not really necessary. I think it's probably better to go for some defensive options, but you know, Gluttonous Greaves is still there as an option. And of course, you're gonna go for Stasis as your brute enchant. Didn't really mention that, but I think that should be relatively obvious. Now for our fourth item, we like to go for Bloodthirster. This gives you a huge injection of AD, 50 AD, which is almost the same as not, it's actually not almost the same, but it's like way more than any of the other items that you get previously. It's almost like 2 items combined. Like for example, Phantom Dancer plus Bork combined, I think still has less AD than Bloodthirster. So Bloodthirster, a huge amount of AD, gives you of course the crit as well as the physical vamp and the Blood Sword Shield. And finally, we top it off with the Lord Dominic's Regard to of course hit 100% crit, as well as gaining that armor penetration. That's going to be really useful, of course, because on-hit Varus relies a lot on auto-attacking and not really proccing your W. You still do that, but that's not your main form of damage, so getting the armor penetration becomes really important. Okay, so now for the runes, we actually go for Conquer, and the reason we go for Conquer is because lethal tempo is not needed. Like, look at how much attack speed we have. We have attack speed from Varus's passive, a little bit from Shield Bow, a lot from both Bork and PD. So lethal tempo is a completely wasted rune because you don't need that much attack speed anyway. Going for something like Conqueror or Kraken Slayer is going to be way better because these two runes give you a lot of damage when you already have the attack speed. Now personally, I prefer the Conqueror because it gives me more AD and more physical vamp, but you can also go for Kraken Slayer for that true damage, and you can proc Kraken Slayer really often because of your high attack speed. Now obviously, for on-hit Varus, you want to go for Hunter Vampirism for even more lifesteal than you already have. Never can get too much of that lifesteal. You're going to go for Bone Plating, of course, for the anti-burst, and Perseverance if the match calls for it. And finally, you want to go for either Sweet Tooth or Mana Flow Ban, because without Mana Mune, Varus has huge mana problems, and you need either Mana Flow Ban or you need the Sweet Tooth to sort of circumvent those mana issues. And finally, for the spells, we actually don't go for Exhaust this time, but we go for Ghost and Flash. And the reason for that is Varus has completely no mobility spells, and that Ghost is going to help you to kite around fights, like move in and out, move left and right, easier to dodge abilities, and easier to just run around, resetting on kill, of course. And you guys will see that later in the gameplay as well. And of course Flash for obvious reasons. And now we're going to of course move in onto the gameplay. Okay, so now taking a look at the Varus gameplay now. Personally, I think that on-hit Varus is going to be the default version of Varus because AP Varus is highly unreliable if you go full AP. Full lethality Varus is really only great against squishy team comps. And of course you do have like those hybrid builds of like half lethality, half AP, and like half on-hit, half lethality, like etc. We'll probably take a look at the half on-hit and half lethality soon. Or rather not half on hit, half lethality, half on hit and half AP built soon. But I think that most consistent and most default build on Varus is going to be the on-hit Varus because he's going to be good in basically every scenario. He's good against squishies because he can just auto-attack them down. He's good against tanks because you have the Bork in your build. And also, of course, you have the percent health damage on your W as well. So more or less, you know, it's going to be fun times for on-hit Varus in majority of situations. I think it's the most standard build. Now, a small thing to note with on-hit Varus is when you reach like 2 to 3 items, you don't generally want to charge your Q if you're in auto attack range, because charging your Q means that you're losing out on seconds that you could be attacking. Obviously you can't auto attack when you're charging your Q, so you're gonna lose a lot of DPS if you charge your Q, you know, instead of just instantly releasing it. You want to instantly release your Q. The only time you want to charge your Q is, of course, number one, in laning phase, like what you see me doing here, because you don't really have the attack speed and the auto attack damage yet. And of course, the second instance is number 2, when you're trying to poke people down that are far away from you. Like for example, if there's a upcoming dragon fight and the people are far away, you want to of course be charging your Q to of course launch it at them. And in all other instances, you want to of course just tap your Q and just launch it at them. So here we get ganked by Lee Sin, and Lee Sin actually forces my flash, which of course is a great gank from the enemy Lee Sin. Honestly, I kind of panicked there quite a bit. I think the flash was still warranted because I think I probably could have died there if I did not flash. But honestly, my first thought there was that Lee Sin might kick me into the team because of the angle he had, so I instantly flashed to prevent that from happening. But you know, afterwards I realized that everybody's only level 3. There's no Lee Sin ultimate to worry about anyways. But like I said, I think Lee Sin damage with like Kai'Sa and Leona is a big threat, so flashing that, better to be safe than sorry, I still think is a really good decision on my part. Anyways, here we're gonna pick up the Noon Quiver and we're gonna head back out into the lane. Of course, a little bit low on resources after suffering that gank off of the Lee Sin. Wave crashes into my tower. Here we're gonna charge up to just you know, snipe out the minion before we get there. And yeah, so not really the best start to the game so far. We have a blown summoner, but you know, we didn't die, so we don't really lose out on too much. Just need to play a little bit more careful because we only have our ghost up now. So if Lee Sin just randomly shows up again at an awkward angle, I'm gonna be in deep trouble, especially since the next time he shows up, he very likely will have his ultimate this time. Of course, one of the main issues with playing on-hit Varus is the fact that because you're not building lethality, you don't really have a huge range advantage. Like, yeah, you still have the same ability, which is your arrow, but it does a lot less damage and is a lot less effective. Of course, you're building full AD, so the arrow is still gonna do, you know, decent damage, but it's not gonna do as much as lethality Varus. On-hit Varus, you sort of have to be close up to the enemies in order to sort of DPS them using your auto attack, so that is of course a consideration. That Varus is a very immobile champion, and now he has to put himself in a lot more danger than if he was in the lethality build, so that is something you always want to keep in mind. Here, Leona and Kai'Sa end up engaging on me. Jarvan actually goes in. I get hit by Leona's ultimate. Kai'Sa, you know, ults in. Lee Sin turns out to be in the area and he comes over as well. Here I'm trying my best to burst down the Leona. I do manage to get the kill on Leona. Lee Sin tries to go in on Nami and ends up tanking the tower. Somehow Nami actually survives by barely picking up the fruit as Lee Sin chases in for the kill. Honestly, I think it's really unlucky for the Lee Sin there. I think Nami should probably have died there, but you know, very thankfully for my team, Nami survives due to the fruit. Lee Sin doesn't have the damage to execute, and Lee Sin ends up dying under the tower instead and gives me a double kill. So now my flash is actually back up. Of course, I did use the ghost in that exchange, but now my flash is back up. I've got 2 kills. I've purchased my immortal shield bow only 4+ minutes in the game, way before first dragon, and we are now sitting sitting pretty in a really good spot. So here, once again, we let Kai'Sa crash. We're going to hit back into the lane. Gonna pick up the CS. Again, I missed another caster minion. A little bit unfortunate, but it is what it is. And yeah, so now Lee Sin is at mid, so now we know we're in a pretty okay spot here. We know we're not gonna get ganked by Lee Sin. Leona is sitting on Vision, which only has just expired. Or rather, I should say Leona has cleared it with her sweeper. But yeah, so we know where Leona is. We're relatively safe here. And yeah, so we're doing pretty well. Now we have our ult back up. We have Ghost and Flash back up as well. So now we're full power, ready to, of course, do the Dragon. Dragon, of course, has spawned. And we push out the wave and quickly rotate to the Dragon. You can see Kai'Sa, Leona, and Swain all rotating over as well. Lee Sin, nowhere to be seen. There he is. But we've already taken the Dragon, and now it's time to disengage. Corki recalling at a very dangerous spot. But we do all manage to disengage, and we do end up picking up that Dragon basically for free because the enemy team was not in position to contest, which is what we love to see. Enemy ward spotted. I'm just going to clear out that ward real quickly. And going to dodge that Kai'Sa W, which obviously was aiming for us as we're walking back toward our tower. And once again, of course, we're doing relatively fine. With on-hit Varus, you don't really want to be very aggressive or anything like that. You just want to be patient, wait for team fights, cast a good ultimate, auto-attack people down in the meanwhile while it's spreading, etc. Get the W burst when necessary, and basically just play like a traditional ADC front to back and just launch your auto-attacks into their faces, and you will be completely fine. So checking in on the rest of our teammates, we can see that Corki is doing alright. However, Fiora not doing too hot, 0, 3, and 0, kind of feeding the enemy set at this point in time. However, she does have the Hull Breaker, which should make her significantly harder to kill and makes her a significant split push threat as well. Although Hull Breaker first item, probably not the best idea on Fiora. You probably want to go for Sunderer or something like that. But anyway, she does have the Hull Breaker. Jarvan's doing alright. He is going for a lethality Jarvan kind of build, the full squishy one-shot kind of build, which I'm not a big fan of personally. I think Jarvan should be played more tanky, and I do play Jarvan more tanky as well, but to each his own, I guess. So here, Jarvan decides to go in for a dive on Leona. I pick up the root on her, blasting her, of course, with my W pop for the percent health damage. Here we're chasing onto the Kai'Sa. Nami picks up the kill, and here off of those quote-unquote resets on Varus from getting champion kills, we're getting a lot of attack speed to kill the tower, and we do pick up the first tower of the game. So here now I'm 3-0 and 1, still doing pretty well. I'm gonna clear out the next minion wave before we back. Leave Jarvan a minion just as a thank you for a nice gank and dive from him. And here we're going to hit all the way back and we're going to reset. Mainly because I have no idea where the Lee Sin is and I don't really want him to go in on me in the middle of the lane. So here we back and managed to pick up the Phantom Dancer. Obviously the 2-item power spike is really strong when you have Shield Bow, Phantom Dancer on all of those champions that like to go for this kind of itemization. It's really strong. And of course now we are pretty strong, so we're going to head over to mid where we can see more or less the whole enemy team congregating for some reason, even though there's no real objective that's coming up anytime soon. Everybody's just ARAMing it down, the classic mid-game ARAM. So here we were initially trying to find a pick. We end up getting a bubble on Swain. Jarvan actually goes in but leaves us in a spot where we're pretty overextended. Set tries to go in on me, which he does. I do manage to score the kill on him eventually though. I try to flash out. Honestly, I didn't think I needed to flash there. Swain pulls us in. Kai'Sa lands a W, and I'm pretty afraid of a Kai'Sa ult, but Kai'Sa wouldn't ult into 3 people most likely, so I end up just going back to the safety of my team in tower. And overall in that exchange, it was basically just a 1-for-0 trade. We got the pick on Set, which was not really the intended target, but we did end up killing Set, and that was pretty much it. My shield bow did get popped though, and I did use both my summoner spells in that exchange, so overall it's a pretty heavy price to pay for just one pick, considering Dragon is coming up, and I'm gonna have no sums. Ult will be back up by the time Dragon is there though, so that will be fine. Varus ult has a relatively low cooldown, so generally your ult is gonna be up most of the time. So here Fiora and Set are still stuck in a 1v1 on the other side of the map. We can see Swain rotating down to the side of the Set and Fiora. We can see Leona here and Kai'Sa on the others on the top lane. Lee Sin hits Corki with a Q and manages to bait out Corki package, which is pretty huge for the enemy team. Don't know why Corki panicked and used the package there. That really was not needed. Here I launched the ulti to get the free pick onto Leona, and with the dragon up, any pick, you know, is gonna be good. So here we pick up the blue buff, which resolves a lot of Varus' mana issues. And here we're gonna start up the dragon. Now, of course, we can see Kai'Sa Swain pushing down mid, and we can see Lee Sin, of course, in the area, trying to potentially look for a steal. We see Swain, and we're gonna turn onto the Swain, getting the pick onto the Swain itself. Now here you can see Lee Sin actually lands a Q onto Corki, and Corki does something very intelligent, which is to Valkyrie away from the dragon. Now this basically means that if Lee Sin takes the Q onto Corki, he's not going to be in range to smite the dragon, and that's something very underrated that is very important that you do to prevent Lee Sin from getting free steals. Lee Sin is one of the best stealing junglers because of how much mobility he has. He has the ability to get in into the pit using either his W or his Q, both of which actually works. And then afterwards he could possibly kick the enemy jungle away and smite, or he could, if he lands a Q onto the dragon itself, it does, you know, missing health damage, so he could land a Q Sonic Wave and then into resonating strike smite, which is really difficult to outsmite, you know, as a jungler, which is why Lee Sin gets steals very often. So many people don't really know how to play against Lee Sin when he's trying to steal. One of the ways that if he lands the Q onto you, you want to exit the pit immediately, but like what Corki did just now. And if he lands it onto the dragon, you want to wait until his Q expires before continuing the dragon. If not, he's going to get free steals, and this happens way too often, which is why I'm kind of spending a section of my Varus guide talking about preventing Lee Sin from stealing objectives, which I think is going to be something relatively important to take note of as you climb through the ranks. And yeah, speaking of climbing, I've recently just hit Master. Of course, now a little bit more time to play, so a little bit easier to climb. We're gonna see where we go, seeing if we can, you know, hit over into Grandmaster, which in this season requires 40 marks instead of the 20 plus marks it required in previous seasons. And yeah, so here we get. I don't know if we get caught out or we're catching out Lee Sin, because honestly we have both sums and ult. I think if he goes in on me there, I honestly think I would be fine. I think I would be the one who most likely gets the kill on him. But of course, that remains to be seen, and we don't really want to find out. So, as I mentioned, we don't really want to do anything too fancy with Varus. You know, just having a good front-to-back teamfight is all I really want. I don't really want to assassinate anyone or anything like that. So here, a huge teamfight breaks out. Swain pops the Zhonya's. Here I get the root onto Lee Sin, which does spread all around the place to basically his entire team. Basically, I think that pretty much just won us the fight, because it meant that the enemy team was unable to run away. We pick up a double onto the Kai'Sa, and Jarvan also picks up a double onto the Leona, and that is basically a clean ace, which basically means that we are able to get Baron. So here, of course, as I mentioned, you just want to auto attack continuously when the stacks are full. You just want to launch a insta Q to pop the stack. You don't want to waste too much time charging up your Q. That is going to be a complete waste. So you guys can see here, I'm just auto attacking, and just a Q randomly when not randomly, but Q whenever it's off cooldown and without charging. So here we recall and pick up the Bork. That's going to help us tremendously with people like Leona, Swain, and Set, who are pretty tanky characters. And we are going to be able to, of course, use the percent current health from the Blade of the Rune King against them, as well as, of course, the percent max health damage from popping our Blight stacks. All of these are going to be really, really helpful to us. So here with the Baron buff, we're going to push down middle lane. We can see our teammates are pushing down top lane, and there is a giant collapse going in onto our team. Here I'm trying to hit up there to help out my team, because obviously without me they're going to be a little bit lacking in damage. But honestly, turns out that they didn't really even need me at all. They were winning 4v3, and they've already picked up 2 kills. Now I'm going to pick up the 3rd kill onto the Kai'Sa, and using the Baron buff, we're going to push down the turret. So now we're going to push down onto the inhibitor turret. Only Lee Sin is left to defend. Nothing much you can really do here. And we pick up a free turret. Nice kick by Lee Sin to disengage. Set tries to come on in, but he's getting destroyed by me. I tank the full damage in the face. Doesn't even do that much damage. He decides to ult me and basically means that he's dead. Here, we are trying to end the game, but that huge shield that comes in, of course, is a relatively big obstacle. Here I end up getting stunned by Leona. Leona goes in on me. I basically just flash out because it became really unsafe to stay there and continue trying to end the game. So instead, what we're gonna do is we do have double dragon, so we do have a triple dragon kind of win condition that's possible. So here I was initially intending to go for the dragon. However, Jarvan ends up getting caught out by Lee Sin, as you guys can see here. So here I'm actually rotating over trying to help the Jarvan, but Jarvan is long gone, and here we end up getting chased down by Leona. Here I'm just gonna go for the quick ult burst onto the Leona and chase her away basically. But at this point, with our jungler dead, we more or less have to concede the dragon. Speaking of which, he is interrupting my recall. So we're more or less going to have to concede the dragon. You can see Lee Sin is already on the dragon. I think it's really unlikely that we can do anything to stop him. But considering there's nothing else to do on the map anyways, we're still headed towards that general vicinity in case he happens to be doing it really slowly. But he does have the set to help him out, so they do manage to finish off that dragon. No big deal. So no triple dragon win condition for us. But what we do still have is pressure on 2 lanes. So we have mid lane pressure with 3 of us pushing, Fiora split pushing on the bottom lane, and because of the missing inhibitor in the top lane, the minions are actually super minions and they are going to be slowly pushing in to the enemy team. So using the pressure on 3 lanes, we're going to be able to like sort of of course try to go for towers. However, enemy team decides to engage on us, which is honestly a really intelligent thing to do because our Fiora was not with us. However, even without the Fiora, we are strong enough that we are basically winning the fight against them 4v5. In the meanwhile, Fiora actually has picked up the bomb inhibitor, we pick up the mid inhibitor, and honestly at this point, we're just trying to look for the end of the game. So here, I'm trying to actually focus the base. Kai'Sa decides to pick a fight with me, ults behind, and I end up in a 1v1 against Kai'Sa, nearly get the kill on her. I try to go back in to finish the base, but the minion dies. I end up having to stasis here to not get caught out, and we end up getting triple rooted by Swain and getting pulled back. Now that pullback kind of screwed me over because I was auto-attacking the Swain, and the pullback caused me to be in the range of the Nexus tower, and that caused me to tank 2 tower shots and die. So kind of really unfortunate there. If that was anyone but like a Swain, like of course like if it's like Urgot or Sin, same thing could have happened, but basically if it was just normal CC and not something that pulls you towards, I would have been completely fine. But I only died because Swain pulled me into the tower ring, so well played by the Swain, and I do end up dying. First death of the game as well. Excuse me. So here Fiora with the Hullbreaker is trying her best to push down the top lane and create pressure. Swain has the Rylai's, so she's getting caught in the Rylai's, and she's getting caught in a 2v1 against Kai'Sa as well. But she pops the ult, gets a nice repost, and actually manages to 1v2 kill the Swain. Now she's in a 1v, now she's in like, from a 1v2 she's now in like a 1v3, and now they're all chasing her down. She's 1 HP. Lee Sin is probably going to be able to catch her and kill her, but this actually provides the distraction for us to go for Baron. So this is really similar to the match yesterday, where also once again the enemy team got distracted on the opposite side of the map, which basically allowed us to pick up a free Baron, as you guys can see here. Now, Elder Dragon is up, but we don't actually need Elder Dragon to end the game. We have triple inhibitors, we have Baron. This is more than enough to actually just straight up end the game. So we don't really even need to go for Elder Dragon, but even so, enemy team just surrender, so we don't really even need to go for anything, and yeah. So I'll leave you guys with the stats as usual. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and goodbye.